Jnanasundari. We are introduced to Jnanasundari at the beginning of the film, a young girl deep in prayer. She is the beloved adopted daughter of King Philip, and the queen also treats her as if she were her birth child. When the king asks where she's been, the girl leads him off to play. The queen offers the king a drink, but the king ignores her and walks away. A servant, Katri, observed the king's interaction and used it to stir up the queen. She suggested the king showed more affection for the child, subtly fueling the queen's insecurity. Influenced by this fear, the queen begins to plot the girl's demise, believing that once Jnanasundari grows up, she herself will be cast out of the palace. While speaking with Jnana, the king notices children waiting for her in the garden and tells her to go join them. The queen approaches, suggesting breakfast, but the king is more interested in observing Jnanasundari at play. Frustrated by his dismissal, the queen becomes angry and leaves. Years go by, and Jnanasundari grows into a stunning young lady, characterized by her strong devotion to Mary. The queen taunts Jnana about her devotion, and her harsh words about Jnana's actual mother reduce Jnana to tears. At that moment, Anthony, the king's servant, appears and informs Jnana that the king wishes to see her. The king brings up Jnana's birthday, expressing his wish to celebrate and that it's time for her to marry. But Jnana counters, stating her preference to stay with him indefinitely. A group of subjects inform the king of damage caused by forest animals, to which the king promises to resolve the problem. When Jnana requests to join the king, he explains the danger and refuses her. Jnana becomes tearful, pleading that she doesn't want to be apart from him. To comfort Jnana, the king tells her the queen will care for her while he's away. Upon hearing that everything is ready for the journey, he says goodbye to Jnana and leaves. While speaking with her servant, the queen hears the suggestion that this is the ideal moment to punish Jnana. Consequently, the queen instructs Jnana to undertake the task of cleaning every room in the palace. Jnana, unversed in such arduous tasks, weeps from the strain. Witnessing her distress, Anthony intervenes, advising her not to continue. However, Jnana states she must obey the queen's order, prompting Anthony to offer to take over the work. A pot crashes to the floor, drenching the area with water. The queen's servant, Katri, then loses her footing on the wet surface and falls. Katri informs the queen that Jnana intentionally broke the pot. Angered by this false accusation, the queen reprimands Jnana and piles on additional tasks as a punitive measure. She instructs Anthony to restrict his work solely to the palace exterior. Abused and degraded, Jnana was treated akin to a dog and made to sleep among the animals in a stable. She was treated like a slave. When Anthony comes to her, Jnana implores him not to reveal any of her mistreatment to the king. Away from the palace, the king feels troubled and sorrowful because he cannot be with Jnana. The king contemplates arranging Jnana's marriage to Falendran, the son of his friend Seaman. Both Seaman and his queen express their happiness at the prospect. Their son's return from hunting is what they're waiting for. While Jnana makes her way into the palace chapel to pray to Mary, the queen sees her and, in a fit of rage, pushes her down the stairs. The fall renders Jnana unconscious. The queen seeks Katri's help. At that moment, a messenger appears with the news that the king is on his way back to the palace. Panic sets in for the queen. Katri, quick thinking, suggests that Jnana should be immediately returned to her room. They quickly get her dressed and settled in her bed, aiming to make it appear as though nothing out of the ordinary has occurred. The queen makes Jnana consume a special drink designed to put her to sleep. They escort Jnana deep into a jungle with the help of some men, intending to end her life. One individual proposes a grim alternative, abandoning her for an animal attack. Upon hearing their sinister words, Jnana makes a desperate dash for freedom, plunging deeper into the forest. Yet, her efforts are in vain as she is ultimately tracked down and caught. Her hands are cut off, causing Jnana to scream aloud in pain. The assailants quickly take her hands and escape. Falendran and his friend John, passing by, are drawn by the scream. They discover Jnana unconscious but still breathing, and immediately come to her aid. The queen received Jnana's severed hands, under the pretense that she was dead. When King Philip finally arrives, he immediately looks for Jnana. His shock is palpable when he encounters the weeping queen. Katri informs the king that Jnana is missing. The king began to cry. The queen then showed him Jnana's hands, which bore marks suggesting she had been killed by animals in the forest. This deeply distressed the king, who then prayed to Mary. Jnana, meanwhile, was slowly regaining consciousness with Falendran tending to her, helping her recover her strength. Gratefully, she thanked him for coming to her aid. Falendran questioned her about her origins, which caused Jnana to weep and ask him to refrain from asking any more questions about her past. Jnana cried, expressing her despair that she wouldn't be able to worship Mary without her hands. The state of his kingdom weighed heavily on King Philip's. To ensure its stability, he resolved to adopt a prince as the next in line for the throne. The queen asked him to adopt her younger brother, prompting a furious outburst from King Philip. Their bond strengthening, Nyana eventually shared her name with Felendren. Nyana confided in Teresa, the servant attending to her, emphasizing that her father's heart would be broken if he ever saw her disfigured hands. Felendren's parents, having learned of King Philip's daughter's death, suggested he marry another royal princess. Felendren, though, declined their request, declaring his intention to marry Nyana instead. Seaman raised an objection, pointing out that Nyana did not come from a royal background. A heated argument ensued between Felendren and Seaman. Felendren vowed to marry Nyana, asserting he would otherwise stay unmarried for the rest of his life. The queen mediated the dispute and won Seaman over. In the end, he also assented, though the marriage itself was solemnized without any pomp or celebration. King Philip sent a message to Seaman, informing him that his country was under attack by enemies and requesting immediate assistance. Felendren stepped forward to aid Philip, arguing that Seaman was past the age for combat. Nyana shares the news of her pregnancy. Feldren stated his intention to assist King Philip. Nyana is happy about the news and gives him her best wishes. Displaying great valor, King Philip and Felendren beat the enemy troops. Felendren receives a message informing him he's now the father of twins. Felendren dispatches a reply with John and his friend Michael. Upon learning that Nyana is Felendren's wife, Katri relays the information to the queen. The queen becomes anxious upon learning that Nyana is still alive. Katri proposes a new plan to the queen. Katri slipped a potent potion into the drinks of Anthony, Michael, and John, rendering them insensible. After Katri stole Felendren's message and presented it to the queen proceeded to alter the message. Amidst the cheerful atmosphere created by the children in Seaman's palace, the message arrived. Seaman was taken aback by the message. The message demanded the immediate killing of Nyana and the babies, stating that Felendren would not return to the palace otherwise. Seaman declared he wouldn't obey Felendren. The queen starts crying seeing all these. Upon meeting Seaman, Nyana questioned him about the message. A moment of silence passed before Teresa showed Nyana the message. Confused by its contents, Nyana began to pray. Nyana told Seaman she wasn't afraid to die and asked him to kill both her and the babies. Unable to comply, Seaman told her he couldn't. He then reasoned that since Nyana had come from the forest, she should simply return there. After Felendren sought permission from Philip to return to his motherland, Philip gave his consent. At the same time, Nyana was on the verge of heading into the forest. Nyana, with her babies, found herself stranded and vulnerable in the forest, weeping and praying to Mary for help. She was helped by a group of monkeys that came to them. Katri lost her peace of mind, unable to sleep at night due to recurring dreams of Nyana's hands attempting to choke her. She revealed all her misdeeds to Anthony in a confession. Reaching his palace, Felendren learned of the situation, and it became clear to everyone that they had been victims of a deception. Felendren started searching for Nyana, declaring he wouldn't come back to the palace unless he found her and the babies. Anthony informed King Philip of all that had occurred, prompting the king to interrogate the queen. With all the facts revealed, he commanded the queen to be imprisoned, stating she would be put to death before everyone as a deterrent. Felendren searched high and low for Nyana. Nyana and her babies were caught in a thunderstorm, and a wildfire erupted, engulfing them. Crying out, she prayed to Mary. Using her legs, she tried to protect the babies. As a massive boulder crashed down, she deliberately positioned herself to protect the babies, dying in the process. Mary materialized, bestowing a blessing that resurrected Nyana. Upon opening her eyes, Nyana discovered her hands were whole again. She began praising Mary. Upon hearing Felendren's voice, Nyana mistook his intentions, assuming he sought to harm her. She quickly took the babies and ran further into the forest. Running through the forest, Nyana came across King Philip. She begged him to take her away, saying someone was trying to kill her. King Philip saw Felendren and then informed Nyana about the queen's conspiracies against her, assuring her that Felendren was innocent and actively searching for her. Their reunion was complete when Nyana and Felendren met. Felendren was equally astonished to find out that King Philip was Nyana's father. Just as the queen and Katri were about to be executed, Nyana pleaded with her father not to kill them. However, the king insisted that the law demanded their punishment. Nyana steadfastly argued for the queen's pardon. She implored the king, declaring that if anyone must die, it should be her, and urged the executioners to strike. King Philip, touched by her immense selflessness, relented and forgave both the queen and Katri. The queen underwent a significant transformation, and they all enjoyed a happy life thereafter.